Hello, hello. Welcome, everyone. This is session 2 of the Get Growing workshop. This is a free live microgreens workshop. First time I've ever done a workshop this organized this way in 3 different sessions, and it's been a lot of fun. So I am going to just chat a little bit, give a few minutes for people to come into the room, and we're going to dive in and unstack these trays that we seeded together on the first session. So if you were with me on that session and you seeded microgreens with me, I want to hear about your trays. So either raise your hand, put it in the chat. Let me open up the chat here. You can use that for questions and for sharing. I'm having the same issue that I had with session 1 where I cannot see myself. I tried to go in and change the settings, but for some reason it is not showing. Let's see. No, that's not it. Bear with me. Okay, I just hid everybody, but I don't want to hide everybody. Let's see. I just see Rosanna. Hi, Rosanna. Nice to see you. And I don't see myself for some reason. Let me see. Can you see me though? Hello. Hi, Mercedes. Welcome, welcome. Can you who are here with me, can you just let me know, do you see me? You see me. Okay. You see me. I'm going to just trust that you can see. I don't know. I thought I changed it in the settings, but we're not going to spend our time together worrying about tech. We're just going to dive right in. Welcome, everyone. Those of you who are joining me, this is session 2 of the Microgreens workshop. If you missed session 1 where we seeded these trays, I sent out the replay via email. If you didn't get that, just reach out and I will send it to you. Today we're going to be unstacking our trays. So we have allowed germination time for these seeds, and we're going to talk about next steps. There is a little bit of a range of the amount of time it takes for seeds to germinate and when it's time to unstack these trays. Typically, it's about 3 to 4 days if you have an ideal germination environment, meaning it's a nice warm, consistently warm temperature in your room. I like to germinate about 75 degrees Fahrenheit if I can keep my grow space at that temperature. Many people actually create kind of a germination chamber, so they keep an area that can be warm if they're growing someplace that's not consistently warm, like a basement or a garage. That's something that we dive a lot more into in my program, where we're talking about how to set up an ideal indoor farm, a vertical farm for microgreens. But just so you know, we can touch on it briefly here. Finding an area in your home that you can grow in is maybe easier than you think. A spare room can work great. A garage. I'm in a shed right now. I see people growing in all different areas. You want something that you can keep relatively temperature consistent and manage the humidity and the airflow. So think about having a circulating fan going, and a dehumidifier can be brought in if you are dealing with a lot of humidity. There's a range of people I know in this workshop and in my program in general all over the world. So we're dealing with a lot of different growing conditions. Some people are in very dry conditions, others very humid. So some of it is kind of figuring out what's working in my grow environment and how long is it taking for my seeds to germinate. It will depend on the variety. Some types of microgreens will take significantly longer to germinate than others. We started in this workshop, like I recommend, with super simple, easy to grow, consistent microgreens that take about the same length of time to maturity, about 10 days, give or take. This is the same thing, the same where it's 3 to 4 days to germinate. Some of you may notice that your seeds are still just starting to germinate, particularly if your environment is a little bit cooler. And so they may need another day or two. A few of you reached out to me showing me kind of what your seeds are looking like. And the most important thing is to pay attention to your microgreens and see what they're showing you. You can probably tell, let me take these bricks off. The bricks, you'll see, really help get a nice solid germination and help these microgreens be a lot stronger. So you can see if before we even unstack that you can see the microgreens kind of poking up. They're actually pushing the trays on top up. So we're going to take this first solid tray off. And on the top is our broccoli. Absolutely love micro broccoli. It's super popular if you're selling direct to consumer or any kind of a health food store because there's so much information now about the health benefits of broccoli microgreens specifically. All microgreens really are packed with vitamins, minerals, phytonutrients, but the sulforaphane that's been linked to a reduction in the risk of cancer has been in the news and been on big podcasts. And so people are hearing about this and excited to purchase and eat broccoli microgreens. And they're super easy to grow. You can see, I'm going to just show you again what the tray looks like when I'm unstacking it. So you can see that they're smashed down, right? They're crushed because they've had that weight on them. Don't worry about that. They are going to stand right back up and be as strong as ever. They're also super yellow. You can see that. It's going to take, let's see, this is a tray of broccoli that's several days ahead. See how green it is because it's photosynthesized here under these grow lights. This tray will do the exact same thing. We're going to look at these trays in 5 days. So October 9th will be our third session of this workshop. And we will see these trays then when they're mature and ready to harvest. The next tray that we seeded is this Rambo radish. And I'm just going to show you what it looks like here on unstacking. Again, it's kind of crushed. You see some yellow cotyledon leaves. Those first two leaves, those seed leaves are cotyledon leaves. Some of them are yellow. A lot of these are purple right off the bat. Radish is, as I mentioned in the first session, one of those that there's a lot of different colors, which can be a fun way to add easy colors to your microgreens. There's more colorful microgreens when you get into beet and amaranth and chard and some of these that are a little trickier to grow. But the radish is one that's super simple. It has a really unique flavor. Let's see, here's a pink, just to show you, one that's kind of a head. It's got this nice pink stem. Hoping you can see this. Again, I can't see myself, so I'm hoping you can see. The final tray that we seeded is the pea. Absolutely love pea shoots. This is what it looks like when we are just unstacking the trays. You can see very yellow, flattened down, but you see those shoots starting. You are going to be amazed over the next couple days the transformation in these trays and what they will change to. Now I want to touch briefly on blackout. And blackout is a technique that many microgreens growers implement. And this is something I encourage you to test out, particularly if you have grown a few rounds of microgreens and you're having issues with your microgreens being very, very short. Let me take my mic off here for a minute. So blacking out, like I said, is a technique that microgreens growers use, and this technique is really to help get the microgreens to grow taller. What we're doing is we're just depriving them of light, and we're helping them to stretch up a little bit. If you planted seeds for your garden, you start seedlings and you see how they stretch for the light. Especially if you don't have adequate light for them, they will get very leggy and reach. Microgreens will do the same thing. So you do need to be careful with this. You can black out for too long and create very weak, spindly microgreens with very long stems that then end up falling over and having all kinds of issues. You can place just your same tray that you use for your bottom tray on top if you would like to black out with that. I like to use a little taller tray since I have them. These are the kinds of trays I started growing in, these deeper trays. I definitely prefer the shallow trays for growing in. They just require way less medium to fill to the top. So if you have these deep trays and you're planting in them, you can absolutely grow microgreens in the deeper trays, but you're going to either need twice as much soil to fill them up to the top, or your microgreens are going to be set down into the tray, which causes issues with harvesting and airflow. So I just use these for blackout if I'm going to blackout. And all you do is, instead of putting these on the shelf under light, you're going to just put that solid tray on top, and you can then set them on your racks and leave this tray on for 12 to 24 hours. You can watch your microgreens. You will see that they get nice and tall. It is something to try out and see what works best in your grow environment. I am not going to black out any of these trays. I have done a lot of trialing of it, and while I do find it helpful for some of the shorter microgreens like arugula and things like this, I sometimes will use a 12-hour blackout. I try to always minimize steps that are not producing significant results. Because I am a production grower, I grow for profit. I want to keep my workflow and my setup as lean as possible. But I did want to bring it up because it is something that's out there a lot. And many microgreens growers do use a blackout phase with some of their microgreens, like a micro broccoli. Radish, it's really not necessary. Some people do, but radish will stretch out and be tall enough on its own. Pea also not necessary in my opinion. I grow a lot of pea shoots and don't use a blackout. So hopefully that helps. I wanted to touch on, I think I said in the email, I'm going to touch on the biggest mistake I see at this phase. There are two. The main one, I'm going to talk about the main one. The main one is people give up at this stage. They don't have good results and they scrap it. They think, oh, this doesn't work for me, or they worry that they have problems. So if you look closely at your trays, let me bring this one around so I can show you closely here. If you look really closely at your trays right after unstacking them, you will see something that looks like mold. And this scares people a lot of the time, and they think, oh, I've got mold in my trays. This didn't work for me. This is terrible. I'm not going to do it anymore. And they give up. So that's the big mistake. Don't give up is what I'm saying. What you see here that might look like mold, I don't know if you can see that on the video, I'm hoping you can, are actually just tiny little root hairs. And one of the ways you can differentiate mold and root hairs is by the next step, which is you're going to water these trays. You're going to top water them. And when it's root hairs that you're seeing, those fine little, they look almost like a mold growth, but they're just little tiny hairs. They're really cool if you look at them up close. It's covered in both my radish and my broccoli look like that, every little shoot. And you can see that it's actually attached to the stem if you look closely. You will start to get an eye for this. You can sometimes see mold in your trays when you unstack them. We talked about in session 1, that is the highest risk time for mold or any kind of disease to set up in your tray is when they're stacked because they're not getting good airflow. So sometimes you will see mold. If I had mold in these trays, I would show you, but I don't. So I just showed you the root hairs. The treatment is really the same. And whether you have root hairs or you have mold or you don't see any of that, you're going to gently top water your trays when you unstack them. After this initial top watering, we are going to switch to bottom watering. So the top watering is really because those roots are not fully established yet. You will see they're starting to come through. You can see they're just starting to poke through the holes there, but they're pretty small at this stage. Even in one more day, they will be much more established, but you can see they're just starting. So if we bottom water, it won't be as efficient as top watering. Top watering also will break up if there is any mold in just at the soil surface. So just like we watered our seeds in, I'm going to give them a gentle watering. I'm going to show you, it really is just about that much. My trays are still, the soil is still damp, from my initial watering in. If your trays are very dry, you can feel they are feather light when you pick them up, and you can see that the soil is dry. You're going to have to water them a bit more, but don't blast these microgreens. These are fragile at this state. You want to be gentle with them. They will get much sturdier and stronger in the next couple days. But a gentle top watering, that is all I do. Tomorrow I will start bottom watering. And by bottom watering, I mean that I am taking either a hose if you're set up with that, or a watering can or a pitcher of some variety. I will show you, I use a...
Laura, may I ask a question? I didn't want to
Yeah,
interrupt you. I don't know if that's okay.
yeah,
Hi.
ask away.
So I've already put my broccoli under the lights. I didn't do the water step before I put them under the lights.
Yeah.
Is it too late now to do that?
No, it's not
Okay.
too late. I would just give them a little water. Look at how they look. Sometimes we've watered them in so heavily, they really don't need water. We're
Okay.
looking at, but if the surface of your soil or your coconut coir or whatever you're growing in, I think you're growing in cocoa.
Coconut coir.
Yeah.
Coconut.
So look and see if it's super dry, I would give them a light top watering with some
Okay.
kind of a mister, even like a spray bottle, if that's what you have, whatever you have. If you have a hose, a light mist will just
Okay.
help make them a little bit happier and a little less stressed at that stage. But you
Okay.
don't have to do it immediately. I do it just because I like to clump my work together. If I'm doing a lot of trays, water them in, put them on the shelf. But sometimes I see that I was a little heavy-handed with the watering when I seeded, and I don't water them at all because I can see that they're still quite damp.
When I unstacked them, I can still see the condensation of water on the bottom tray that was above it.
Yes.
So I still they were pretty still kind of like moisturized. So that's why I didn't
Yeah.
even think about putting any more water. Okay. Okay.
Great instinct. Yeah,
Okay.
really good instinct.
Okay.
Always trust yourself as a
Okay.
grower.
Okay.
Look at your microgreens. It's great to follow someone's framework when you're new at something, but
Mm,
also pay attention to your greens. They will tell you kind of what they need. You can see when you start paying attention. That's why I say the mistake is when people give up, because even if you had a failure, even if your microgreen seeds did not germinate, that's still great feedback for you. So trying to figure out, okay, what went wrong here? Or maybe they didn't germinate around the edges, and there's only a strip in the center that germinated. Okay, good. That's good feedback. Like what, give yourself, like expect it to take several rounds for you to kind of get this down. Be willing to have less than perfect trays at first as part of your learning experience. Does
thank
that
you.
help? Yeah,
Yes, thank you.
yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
Starting tomorrow, we're going to bottom water these trays, and this is something that takes, this is probably what takes the most practice. Yes, seeding takes practice, harvesting takes practice, but watering is one of those things that we get tons of questions about every week in the program is from new growers. And this is something that you have to get dialed in. In my program, I do walk you through a pretty step-by-step method for this. But a lot of it is you paying attention to your greens. There's variables like what kind of medium you're growing in, what your environment is like, what kind of container you're using to water, and what variety you're growing, how old they are. That really the amount of water they need each day varies based on the growth. Just like it makes sense, right? As they get bigger, these pea shoots here, like that are a few days away from harvesting, they require significantly more water than a tray that is just brand new, right? So some of it is just, like I said, trust that intuition that you have. If you have been a gardener or grower, pay attention to your greens. They will give you feedback. But we're going to water these starting tomorrow using a watering can. And I water just so that the bottom tray is covered with water, just slightly. Every day I will give a little bit more water. I actually use kind of a counting system with my watering can that gives me a consistent amount, or with my hose, it's a different count because they get more water. So this is something you have to be willing to choose to look at as this is fun. This is part of the me figuring it out. The nice thing about growing them right in your home is hopefully you get a chance to have eyes on your microgreens multiple times a day. You're looking at them in the morning. really feel the weight of the trays. That's going to tell you a lot about how saturated the medium is. Feel what they feel like when you first plant them, when you first unstack them. Notice when they get really dried out. I have a few trays right now that are screaming for water. I'm going to water after this workshop, and I can feel how light they are. And I can feel that they need water. You're going to build this as you start growing microgreens. The cool thing is, because they grow so quickly, you're getting a lot of feedback week after week. So you can become really good at this quickly if you decide you want to, and if you pay attention to what the greens are showing you. If you overwater, you will see your microgreens will become wet. Sometimes you see damping off where they actually collapse on each other. Sometimes you see mold. These are all signs you gave them way too much water. Uh, they should be able to wick up all the water in the bottom tray in an hour or so. If you see standing water hours later still in the bottom tray, just notice that and tell yourself less water next time. You will learn. If you are underwatering, you will see the trays will be very light. The microgreens will be falling over. They will look dehydrated. They will look floppy and unhappy. This is something that you will just notice as you're growing, and so you will tweak. You will think, okay, well, I gave them, I'm going to need to water a little bit more next time. A mistake people make is trying to drastically overcompensate, particularly when they have dry trays. So if you wake up in the morning, your microgreens are starting to lay flat and looking very sad, don't panic. They're pretty resilient. Water them the normal amount and give them a few hours to let them perk up. Don't drown them in water. A lot of people, oh no, they're so thirsty, and then they give them too much, and you can kind of have a flip-flop and be battling it the whole grow. So hopefully that helps with watering. Again, this is super overview, but this is enough information to get you started. You really can start growing with this, whatever kind of container. If you're just growing in a little pot, I know a few of you are just growing in little 4-inch pots. Great, that's how I started too. You will learn all the same principles that then you can scale to trays or larger containers if you want to do that. It's going to be the same principles. If you're using a spray bottle, if you're using a little cup, pitcher, watering can, hose, whatever, pay attention. Know that the watering needs will increase as your microgreens grow. After we've top watered them, so we've unstacked them, right? We see that they're all crushed. I decided I'm not going to black out any of these trays. If you want to, you can. I kind of recommend not blacking out in the beginning. See what they look like without that step. If you are seeing that they are very short, so that they are hard to harvest, then you may want to black out for a day after unstacking. If they are not looking as robust as this, but you want to unstack them, they look kind of puny. You can see that they've germinated, but they're not pushing the tray up or anything. But you want to unstack them for whatever reason. You can either leave them stacked, or you can put that tray upside down and let them just deprive them of light to get them to stretch up and be a little taller. Next, we're going to put them onto our racks with lights. So a lot of you had questions about grow lights. I pulled one out to show you. So I use these Barina grow lights. I've tried lots of different grow lights. I've researched lots. I've bought a lot. I have an eclectic collection of grow lights because I was trialing so many for so long. These are the ones I've settled on because my goal was to get a little more uniform in my setup. What's nice is to have very few variables in your growing, so that when something goes wrong, you can tweak one at a time. If you have all different kinds of lights and you're trying to figure out why are my microgreens not growing great, it's hard to say. But if you have consistent grow lights, that's one thing you can tweak, like the amount of time that your lights are on. But you can just use the same grow lights. So these Barina grow lights, they're super simple. I don't know how well you can see them. They're really basic. They have the bulb. I use these shields that they come with. It just helps diffuse the light a little bit so that there's even coverage. I use 2 of these lights per shelf. So my shelves are 4 feet wide, so I can easily fit 4 10-20 flats across. Some growers like to use 3 lights. I find 2 are sufficient I get great yields. And then I just slide these shields on, make sure they come with a sticky tape. I've had a lot of students that are having issues and we realize that they have this tape that's not allowing the light to come through. So make sure you pull that tape off. They come with really basic clips, like hardware that you can hang up. I just use zip ties. It is so simple. I do not adjust the height of these. So you can put them on chains and you can drop the lights down and pull them back up. If you're growing on a small scale, that may be something that you enjoy doing or that works well for you. Again, back to the trying to keep a really lean workflow and setup as far as like simplifying steps. I keep my lights at the same height. I have these ones off just so there's not a weird glare, but I use these same ones. The other thing people ask about is the color. So these Barina grow lights, I'll send it out in an email. I'll email you all after this workshop and I'll send you the lights that I use. And you can get those, or at least it'll start your research around and see what looks good to you. Maybe you have a local store that you can purchase from and you don't want to go the Amazon route. Great, that's awesome. If you want the ease of just being able to order something, I'll send you the link. They come in a variety of colors. I have some that are these white lights. They're daylight. They do great. I like the look of them better because they don't tint the color of the greens. The other ones I have are these pink ones. You can see I'll turn them on. So these purple pink grow lights, technically, if you look at the research, the red-blue spectrum is what these microgreens absorb the best. So these should be the most efficient lights. And a lot of the large scale operations use these pinkish lights. So if you're wanting to do that, that's great. I have a bunch of these too. I personally don't see a significant difference between the white and the pink. That is just my own personal growing. I have done a lot of testing. I have done a lot of measuring of yields, and I don't see a significant difference. So that being said, get what you like. If the pink lights bug your eyes, I don't love looking at them. So if I'm in the grow space a lot, they're not my favorite, but some people love them and think they're super fun. They do work really well. So you can get either one, either the pink lights, which are that red blue spectrum, or the full spectrum daylight white lights. Either ones work great. Questions about lights? Oh, I see Diajax was talking about, I missed your comment about the mold. Yeah, that's why I bring that up, because this happens, that thought happens so often that people unstack their trays and they're like, oh no, I see all this mold in my trays, because those root hairs look very similar. But notice when you top water them, or if you spray them with a spray bottle, the root hairs will disappear. Also, if you get down and look really close, you will see that the root hairs are coming off of the stem, the shoot itself, whereas mold, if I had mold, I could show you. I have it in the program. We have a troubleshooting guide and I show you some of the problem. You will have, if you grow microgreens long enough, you will see mold at some point. So don't panic about this. But it is different. It's kind of spiderwebby. The water will just sort of beat up on the mold. It doesn't make it disappear. If I have a little bit of mold, when I unstack, I do the same thing. I top water, but I do it a little more vigorously. I could like make this spray a little bit harder, and I just disrupt those mold colonies just with water and put them on my racks, get my oscillating fan going, moving air around, and that mold does not come back. Basically, once the environment is not ideal anymore, it doesn't thrive. Some people have persistent mold, and then you may need to get into some food grade hydrogen peroxide that you treat the tray with at that stage when you're unstacking. So hopefully that helps. Other questions about, let's see. I see your lights are not close on the greens. Is there a certain inch? Yes, great question. A certain inch it's supposed to be from the tray. I researched and was told different numbers, like 2 to 4 inches, then adjust as they grow. Yes, great question. And you will see a variety of information out there. Mine are about 10 inches from the top of the tray, and I leave them static at that. I am not dropping them down and adjusting them. I am letting the microgreen stretch. Uh, if you are not blacking out, this will help having your lights up a little bit farther. The reason I do is I am setting them for my tallest microgreens, which are typically my pea shoots. Pea shoots grow nice and tall. I do not want them hitting the top of the lights and getting burned from the lights or getting damaged or stressed from being so close to the lights, which if I drop my lights down, they can get really close to the tops of those lights. So I set mine up for the tallest lights possible, or tallest microgreens possible. So you're right, there is a range. And even in my program, we talk about this a lot. And some people say, oh, I have mine 12 inches above the top of my tray. And some people say, I have mine 6 inches above the top of my tray. Otherwise, I'm not getting good results. So that is something that you can adjust a little bit too when you're looking at all the variables. Once you start growing, and if you're wanting to grow for profit, meaning you're wanting to grow and sell these microgreens, you want to start looking at all of these variables and how can you increase your yield and increase your quality of product. And these are, what's cool about microgreens is very niche, right? It's very simplified, it's very focused. So you can look at all the variables of watering, medium you're growing in, lights. You can look at the distance of the lights. You can look at the length of time the lights are on. You can leave them on for 12 hours. You can leave them on for 18 hours. That's my max, 18 hours on. I have trialed 24 hours on just to see. I do notice that the microgreens look stressed. So just like all of us, right? We need to rest. We need darkness and quiet and rest. My microgreens do a lot better when there is at least 8 hours of darkness. Some people have their lights on during the night and off during the day because these lights, even the Barina grow lights, which are LED, they're very efficient grow lights, but they still put out a little bit of heat. If you're growing with fluorescent lights, there may be even more heat. So if you are trying to use the heat of the lights to warm up your environment, it may make more sense to have them on at night. You can just kind of figure that out. If you want to just have them on a regular schedule, there are really simple outlet timers that you can set up. So this is one less thing that you need to do. Your lights go on at the same time every day and off at the same time every day. Highly recommend that. Super simple, inexpensive piece of equipment to just hook your lights up to. That way, if you have a rushed morning and you don't get into your grow space right away, your lights are already on. You can get in and water when you have time. Almost everyone here and in my program, they have full busy lives. So microgreens are supporting their life. They're not taking over their life. And that's why simple things like timers can help a lot with your lights. And you can set them for a simple 12 on, 12 off, 16 on, 18 on. I would not do more than that. You can use the hardware to hang the lights. You can adjust them a little bit. And I recommend that. Keep a journal or keep a Google Doc or whatever you use to keep, even the Notes app in your phone, and jot stuff down. Take photos of stuff. You will be surprised how you forget. Like, what did my broccoli look like on day 3 after I unstacked it? You can go back. It's so easy now. We have the tools to be able to document this so that we're learning for ourselves also. Write down things you notice that are different. How far are the lights? What's the temperature in your grow room? How much did you water? And start compiling that information. If you want to grow to sell, this is going to really help you to dial in your systems very quickly so that it becomes just super easy, kind of a rinse and repeat, like you know how to do it. And that makes selling a lot easier too. When you are really confident that you can consistently grow microgreens and I know how many ounces of pea shoots I'm going to get for every tray. I know how many ounces of broccoli. I know how many containers that translates into. All of this makes it easy for you to take orders ahead of time. If you're in my program, you know I teach a grow to order sales model. So this is going to minimize waste. It's going to minimize stress for you. And growing a whole bunch of microgreens and trying to sell them, you're going to have orders ahead of time and be growing specifically for those orders. The stress is gone when you know you can consistently grow. Don't start this until you've had enough practice so that you can consistently grow and know what your yields are going to be. Other questions that are coming up around this stage of the microgreens? Let's see here. Okay. They will become leggy since they're reaching toward the light. Yes. So if your lights are too high, if you're seeing your microgreens are super leggy, if you know what I mean by leggy, meaning the stem is stretched up really tall and they are not sturdy, drop your lights down a little bit. There's a couple things that could be going on. One, you may need to make sure you've got adequate weight during the germination. You may need to make sure you're not unstacking them too soon. Blacking out may not be your friend if you're seeing that, and your lights may be too high. Those are all things you can think about if you're seeing super leggy microgreens. You might want to drop your lights down a little bit. Or you might want to eliminate the blackout and see if that helps. Does it interrupt the quality? Yeah, it does. Having leggy microgreens are lower quality. So microgreens across the board, it's not just the amount of weight per tray when you harvest, it's looking at that stem to leaf ratio. The majority of people don't love a super long stem on their microgreens. Think about it yourself, like if you're eating them, right? If you have them put on something, if the majority of it is just stem, it's like it's just not as pleasant to eat. So we want to increase our yields and get nice full microgreens without just getting them the stems longer. The nice thing about having a long enough stem, and we'll see this in our session 3 of our workshop, is harvesting is so much easier. When you have very short microgreens, it is just harder to harvest them. If you have longer ones, you can always harvest up the stem a little bit to get that ideal length of microgreen that most people want. If you are working with chefs, and I know there's several people in this workshop that are wanting to sell to restaurants, this is a really great customer base also because chefs already have an appreciation for microgreens. They love them. They know what to do with them. They're excited to get local microgreens that have good shelf life and great flavor. They may talk specifically about what they're looking for in the way of length, so how long the stems are, leaf size. Those are all things that you can work with the chef, especially in the fine dining, if you get into that. You can work closely with the chefs on that. And that can be a lot of fun, just depending on what you want to do with your business. So once a day, you put water only. Yes, that is what I do, okay? And I would say that cross industry standard is a once a day watering. Now, large microgreens operations where water is automated, it typically is once a day as well. I highly recommend, even if you want to automate your watering, okay, you can do this with flood and drain systems. I highly recommend you start with hand watering. It is going to teach you so much about your microgreens. You will see the needs of your trays fluctuate based on variety and based on age, how many days old they are. So hand watering is going to be really ideal. There are some very dry environments where growers tell me they water twice a day. So a couple things, if that's happening, you don't want to water twice a day. Some of it may mean that you need to grow in deeper trays so you have more medium to hold on to water. But for most grow environments, once a day is perfect for microgreens. So choose about the same time of day, morning, afternoon, evening. It doesn't have to be down to the hour, but about the same time as your watering time, and use that time for close observation of your trays. You're looking at every single tray as you're going down and watering. You can get little tabs so you make it easy. You're going to just water down like this. You're looking at the tray. You're looking, you're noticing, you're paying attention to them. You're feeling the weight of the tray. You're counting how much water you're putting in. Maybe you're measuring. A lot of in the program, I do walk through actual measurements. I don't want to get into that here. I want you to kind of try this. Trust your intuition a little bit. I've seen a lot of problems with people who are measuring the exact amount of ounces of water per day because there is fluctuation. These are living things. There are lots of variables. So I can't tell you it's going to be exactly 9 ounces of water today that they need and 11 tomorrow. That may be the case for me. It may not be the case for you. So if your mind operates like that, if you are a numbers type of person, maybe you do want to measure it and record it and say, yeah, I'm giving 3/4 of a cup a day, and then I'm bumping it up to a full cup of water by the end. Maybe that helps. Try some things. This is a good opportunity for you to kind of own it, particularly if you're looking to start a business or a side hustle. This is your thing, right? This is your chance to become excellent at this and to learn your setup. Really helpful to have a framework to follow as a starting point, and then very helpful for you to trust yourself, your own grower's intuition, and getting your systems like your watering down. But once a day is typically great. You put water by the foils or down in the trail. Sorry, my English. Um, so when I'm watering, I top water when I first unstack my trays. I will top water. That means I use this sprayer, or if I'm outside in my greenhouse, I use a hose with a nozzle and I just spray over the top that first time. After that, starting tomorrow, I will bottom water only. That means I am not pouring water on the top of these microgreens. And the reason why is I want the microgreens to stay relatively dry, the foliage, the leaves, the stems, because they are planted super intensively. They are dense. I mean, look at how dense these are. And these are a little bit wet. If they are, it's not ideal for them to be wet like this. So you can see, even though I have tons of experience growing, sometimes I probably overwatered that tray a little bit. I can see the broccoli is nice and dry. If you are top watering, everything's going to be wet, wet. And then they're planted so intensively that they're not getting enough airflow in there. And then you can start to have mold again or other disease problems. One of the ways we minimize them being overly wet is we bottom water. So we allow these roots coming through the holes. That's why we plant it into a container with holes in it. And we allow the roots to passively wick up the water that we've poured into this tray. So we'll take this out. I don't usually take it out all the way. I will just lift it up, pour the water into here, and set it back down. I can feel that this soil is still damp, so I don't want to actually pour water in there because this is my sample tray. We're going to use this one for session 3, so I want to keep it nice. But that's how we would do it. So we just pour water into the bottom tray once a day until they're ready to harvest. If you notice that your trays are very wet the day before harvest, you may want to hold off on your watering that day. If you're going to be harvesting in the evening, let them dry out a little bit. You don't want them floppy. At a cellular level, you want them to be hydrated, but you don't want them to be wet as in they're wet to your touch. The leaves are wet. I hope that helps. Okay, good. Yeah. Yeah, and no worries. Any other questions about this stage of growing microgreens? This is a fun stage, right? Because now we get to see them. The seeding, they're stacked and they're just sitting there for that 3 to 4, some people 5 days, depending. Let's see, we planted them Monday to Tuesday, Tuesday to Wednesday, Wednesday to Thursday. Would have been 3 days. Now it's Friday, so it's 4 days because it was the same time, 10 o'clock. 4 days, and this is what they look like. And that's pretty typical for me. Sometimes it is warmer. I try to keep a relatively stable temperature, but sometimes in the summer, even though this is an insulated room in this shed, it still gets hot. It gets hotter in the summertime, and I will notice that my trays germinate faster. If your trays are taking a really long time to germinate, your environment is not warm enough. You need to put them somewhere that it will be warmer so they germinate faster. We want them to germinate as quickly as we could get them to germinate so that we can get them onto these trays. That's why we soak the pea seed. The one tray that I did not soak, that I just planted the seeds and watered them in, it is not even close to this. It is way behind. So that's just something, you can plant them dry, but it will take longer. So if you have larger seed, pea, sunflower, fava, you want to think about soaking those seeds first. Okay. Other questions? Who's feeling excited?
I'm excited. I have a question. I want to
Yes.
type this a lot. So when I take off the stack, there's still like little seeds stuck to the bottom of it. So do I just
Yeah.
don't worry about them? Don't put them in there. Just keep on moving. Like what happens with those?
Yeah. So yeah, you're totally right. You can see it. Maybe you can see it on my tablecloth. They came off on my tablecloth, but yes, they will have a bunch of seed holes, spent seeds on top. Let me show. Okay, it will look like this, right? So if you are just growing for yourself, if you're just growing for yourself, it's no big deal, right? You got a tray or two. If you're growing for production, this just can become messy. So I don't have my camera set. I have a bar with a towel basically, and as I take each tray off, I just run it across that. And then I have a shop vac that I just clean up all those seeds. This is very normal. The reason I'm showing you is because you may think, oh no, all these wasted seeds. If you look closely, almost all of them are just seed holes. If you look really closely, they're opened up. The actual shoot is in there. They just lost their seed holes. That's great. We want to get rid of those seed holes anyway. You'll see some of them stick onto the microgreen if they don't come off during that phase. Let me show you like here. If you look closely, you can see there are some of those seed holes attached to the greens. And a day or two before harvest, I will just, with a nice clean hand, run my hand across those and kind of knock those off. They're not dangerous. Depending on the variety, sometimes they're hard. Radish are nice and soft. You can eat them, but they do break down faster than the microgreens, so they'll decrease your shelf life of your product if you have a bunch of seed holes in the product itself. So no, yes, when you unstack them and they've got all these empty seed holes stuck to the tray because it's wet because you watered it in, you're just going to clean that off and keep your area clean and just know that that's normal. Nothing went wrong there. You didn't waste a bunch of seed. A lot of people think that's wasted seed and then they start seeding less. It's not the case. It's just empty seed holes. So great question. Yeah. Other questions? This is good. This is very much, I feel like you are ready at this stage to unstack your microgreens if you haven't started growing. Okay, if you've been just passively listening in to this workshop, get growing. This is it. Like go root through your garage, whatever your garden stuff, find some soil, put it in something, poke some holes in it, find some seeds, sprinkle it on there. Just start. Okay, if you're not that you know, carefree and you really want to do things the right way, then order some stuff. Order a small amount, order some trays, order some seeds and get growing. You'll be really glad you did this. It does not take that long, but at least get growing for your family. And if part of you is thinking, I keep hearing about microgreens businesses, or I would love to sell at a farmer's market, that sounds so fun. The only way you're going to get there is by taking action. It's a huge reason why I started my program, is to help give people the kind of kickstart they need and the roadmap to follow. Because a lot of times it's kind of knowing what's the next thing to do. And so if you have a program that you can walk through, it will take you through those steps to get you going, because otherwise it just kind of stays an idea, or maybe you try it a little bit and then get busy with other things. If you want to do this, you really can. And it's beneficial in so many ways. It's beneficial if you just are growing for yourself, your friends, your family, whatever. Amazing. If you want to grow for profit, it is an incredible way to make scalable money at home doing something that you really like to do. That's really fun, that's flexible. The work and hours are flexible. That is why I was drawn to it. I wanted something that felt like I had some purpose to my life, that I enjoyed it, that it was flexible, that was realistic for me to do. And I know that there's many of you who are here with me right now that are similar. You're wanting something. And I Googled all the stuff. I thought about so many different things, and I didn't really want to do the MLM things and the other. There's lots of different options out there right now. But if you love growing, if you love healthy food, this is a great option. The demand for microgreens is increasing. Once you learn how to market and sell them, the sky's really the limit as far as how big of an operation you want. And for many people in my program, it's a relatively small operation. A lot of people, they've got one, maybe two racks, and that brings in an extra $1,000 a month, and they love that because it's very doable, helps their family out. This is a realistic thing. That's kind of why I come and do these workshops that are not fancy. There's not, I'm obviously not in any kind of production studio or anything. I'm not trying to sell you on you are going to become a millionaire with microgreens, but I'm letting you know that you can. If you love to grow, you can grow microgreens and you can sell them. And it's very rewarding because you know what you're selling is valuable. It is nutrient dense, it is packed, it is local. For a lot of people, it's the first bridge to knowing someone's growing their food. And that's a fun step. It's a doable step, right? People can actually purchase from you something that they put on their plate every day that's packed with nutrition. They know who grew it. You live, 2 miles away or whatever it is. That's a very rewarding feeling, and it can keep you fueled. So this is my encouragement to you. If you're wanting to do this, you can do this. If you want help with it, my program is going to be opening, and it will show you step by step how to do it, and will give you that support and encouragement ongoing. We're going to be meeting every single week. That you can just hop on a call, you can ask your questions. There's no other program like that out there for microgreens growers, geared towards people who want to be a small-scale grower and want to get their questions answered about growing, about how to setting up their business, about marketing, selling, all of that. My goal is to support you through that and help you with that. So if you have a desire to do this, you can reach out and ask me questions. Keep opening my emails. I'm going to send all the information out there once enrollment opens. And I'm excited to have many of you join me in there and get to know some of the other growers. We've got just amazing people. I feel very blessed with the people that are drawn to this program are just such good-hearted people. And I don't know if you know, but there's a lot of craziness in the world right now, and there's a lot of negativity, and there's a lot of things that make our hearts sad, and it is nice to focus on something good, healthy, positive, something that you can actually take action and do. For me, that's huge. It's kind of what gets me through like big problems, is like focusing in on here's something that I am choosing to do that is putting some good in the world. So that's my soapbox there. Thank you for listening in. If you have other questions along the way, reach in. I'm going to try to pop on here live on Instagram just to give you some updates on these trays, so be watching there. And then we'll have our final session 3 of our workshop on October 9th at same time, 10 a.m. Pacific. So I will see you all there. All right. Thanks so much. Bye, y'all.